back to Wealth Wednesday. My name is Bryant Stone. I'm the Chief Investment Officer of Polimeni Tax and Financial Group. Appreciate you guys coming on. Last week we talked about what is a traditional IRA. This week we're going to continue as far as talking about different vehicles that you can put your money into to create wealth, to build for retirement. So we talked about what's a traditional IRA. Now we're going to talk about what is a Roth IRA. So very similar to a traditional IRA, the acronym in the IRA meaning an individual retirement account, something that's meant for retirement. The contributions that you're going to make into that Roth IRA are going to be contributions that you've already paid tax on. And then the benefit with, or the big benefit with the Roth IRA is that not only you pay tax on that money now, but then also your earnings are going to grow tax-free. Now there's a few different nuances with that. But the biggest benefit with Roth IRA is that when you have that big pool of money in retirement, all that money will be tax-free. So it won't be considered ordinary income like a traditional IRA, okay? Very similar to the traditional IRA in your contribution limits. So 2021, you can put up to $6,000 per year, okay? Under the age of 50 and 50 and above, you can put in an additional $1,000 to make that total contribution $7,000. Okay, so very similar to a traditional IRA in that sense. Now, when it comes to the type of investments, very similar to a traditional IRA. You can put in stocks, bonds, ETFs, mutual funds, a bunch of other different investments as well, but those are your four most common types that you'll see in an IRA in general. Now, the big thing with a Roth IRA, to keep that money and that interest that you're going to accumulate tax-free is what's called the 5-year rule, okay? So when you set up a Roth IRA, as long as you don't touch that money within 5 years, that interest that was accumulating on that money will be tax-free. Because once again, the money you put in, you already pay tax on, so you don't have to pay tax on that twice. But the biggest thing with the Roth IRA is that you're doing it because you want all that interest that's going to accumulate to be tax-free as well. So as long as you don't touch it within 5 years, that rule applies, that interest will be tax-free. Now, another thing kind of that falls in line with that is that if, let's say, for example, you need to pull out money from a Roth IRA before you're 59 and a half, okay? If you do that, the interest on that money would be subject to that 10% tax penalty, similarly like we talked about with the traditional IRA. Now, your principal won't be subject to the 10% tax penalty, and there's certain situations with that where that 10% tax penalty can be waived in instances if you're buying a home for the first time, like you're a first home buyer, and there's different little nuances with that as well. Please consult with your financial advisor and your tax advisor. Now, if you're over 59 and a half, the taxation on that Roth IRA will not be subject to any 10% tax penalty because you are over the age of 59 and a half. Now that 5-year rule would still apply. So if you have it for under 5 years and you set it up at 60 and you're pulling out money at 62, then that interest would be subject to tax. Okay, so you want to make sure the 5-year rule applies, but typically if you have a Roth IRA and you're over 59 and a half, most times you've had it for more than 5 years. So then that interest that's been accumulating on that will be tax-free as well. Now, another benefit with the Roth IRA is that it's not subject to required minimum distribution, the RMD. So the traditional IRA, the money on that is subject to the required minimum distribution. With the Roth IRA, the interest and the pool of money that's inside of it is not subject to the required minimum distribution. So that's a big benefit with the Roth IRA. Now, if you're a single tax filer and your modified adjusted gross income is under $140,000, then you can contribute to a Roth IRA. If you make more than that, then your contributions will start to get phased out. Now, if you are a married person filing jointly, then your modified adjusted gross income is under $208,000, you can contribute to a Roth IRA. If you make more than that, then your contributions start to get phased out. So, we want you guys to be aware, be cognizant of different vehicles that you can put your money into once you've got yourself in a position to invest, to create wealth, to build for retirement. A Roth IRA is a great vehicle, typically for folks that may think in retirement their taxes may be higher. the way things are going now with the tax environment, who may knows. But once again, please consult with your financial advisor. Please consult with your tax professional before investing in one of these. And appreciate you guys coming on. We'll see you again next week.